Well, hello and welcome. We have a special guest, Baby Wilbur, here with us today. Can't seem to find a place to settle down. Come on, I need you to settle down so we can talk about Superman. Have you guys seen it? Well, I've got a few thoughts, so I thought I'd share them with you and with Baby Wilbur. Baby. So I'm not here to talk about the casting. That was great. Or the production values. The film was well made. It's entertaining. Go spend, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. I don't know how long it lasts. In the theater, just going for a ride, an entertainment ride, is fine. But I couldn't help but notice all the different kind of not social issues, but not just social issues, maybe scientific issues, different political things, maybe scientific, social, whatever, just issues that come up in the news or talked about. So I thought the first two, I just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. By the third one, I was like, you know what? I need to make notes. I couldn't just sit in the theater without making notes. Of course, most of it's dark. But when I was in high school, for some reason, I think I would like have thoughts in the middle of the night. I didn't want to turn the light on, but I always kept a notepad and a pen or pencil next to my bed. And so I would write in the dark. And I got quite good at it. So, of course, it's been since high school, so 30 years, more than 30 years since I've done that. Well, I'm almost 60, so 40 years really since I've done that. But I'm going to trust myself. I have not looked at the notes. I pulled out this is actually, that's some of the notes, but if you'll notice, it's my little day planner that I made. And so I just went to the back page of it, and I ended up writing four little pages of these notes. So, so I guess it's going to kind of go in order of how the movie went, and the things that just stood out to me. So the first one was portals. So a lot of people believe that there are portals, that maybe CERN is a portal, that maybe AI is opening a portal. Certainly, the guy that did the D-Wave quantum computers, he talked about they were opening portals. So portals are something that is talked about. Are they real? Do they open up to a different dimension? Where is it, through time and space? Is it, something spiritual, something nefarious? We don't know. Are they even real? But in Superman, there were definitely portals. So portals was the first thing that caught my attention. Second, okay, I put war games, arms deals. Okay. So this particular item kind of carried on throughout the film. And basically you've got Lex Luthor and his corporation that is selling arms. They're making money selling arms to Barovia, something, some country, right? Some made up country. And so they're selling the arms, and then they're doing they want a war because of like with Superman. So they're trying to get Superman to create, basically. Also, I guess you could, I don't think I wrote this down, order out of chaos. So the whole, and then there's some kind of not dialect, but so there's order out of chaos. That's just two things, but there's the one that's the three Hegelian the something. Let me open up and see. I think Hegel dialectic, is that it? Let me see. 3-stage process: thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Okay, so that's also a thing that's similar. I mean, it can be used in a way that's Hegel's dialectic, all right, is what came up in searching. And so they're creating a situation so that they can have the outcome that they want. All right, that's the basic thing. And the way that people and corporations and arms dealers, if you remember the movie Wag the Dog, it was all about this. It explains it and sets it up and plays it out perfectly as far as how the whole war machine is created in the world. Where the rest of us are all just pawns in what's happening, right? So that was a thing that I noticed. Number 3. I didn't number them anymore after number 4, but social media turnarounds. Okay, so this part, that's what I wrote quickly to describe where you can be the most popular celebrity. And it was kind of, I wrote social media, but it can be mainstream media, social media, whatever. You are beloved, and then in an instant, everyone hates you. Okay, that's a real thing that really happens, and it happens to Superman, and then later it happens to Lex Luthor. I think is it Lex Luthor, right? So then it happens to him in the end. But that is something that really happens. And so that is touched on in the movie, how quickly the tide can change against you, right? And also, I don't know if I wrote it in here about like disinformation and misinformation can be. So Lex Luthor was actually creating information. Hey, Zach, the Zach Haran story. He was creating information and releasing it about Superman that was kind of real, but something that Superman himself had never seen or known, because they were able to recover some digital files that were unrecoverable previously. So therefore, he didn't know. It was basically his parents' message to him when they sent him to Earth. And so he only heard part of the message because the other part was unretrievable. But Lex Luthor was able to retrieve it and then played it and released it to the public, and everyone started hating Superman. But the same thing could be happening. That happened to be true, but it could be false information, especially with AI. People can use your voice, use your image to create videos that look like it's really you and sounds like it's really you. So there's that. Number 4, immigrant rights. So he's literally an alien from another planet, right? Superman. And so there was one part, it was like a whole little speech thing about how even though, and it was something like, even though Superman isn't human because he came from the planet Krypton, he still has rights as a human, being on Earth and growing up on Earth and living on Earth. It was like a whole little speech part, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it not just like migration, immigrants, but also like AI robot things too, or like, wasn't Sophia given citizenship in like Saudi Arabia or the UAE or something, someplace gave Sophia citizenship? And all it is AI, right? A robot. And so our robots going to be so human-like, especially with the AI is basically training brains that would be in robots, right? So the more human-like AI can become by learning from our behaviors and interacting with all of humanity, then the more human-like the robots will be, right? That's the whole singularity thing, right? But not only AI, but also literal immigrants, whether they're coming, going from country to country, immigrant rights. Monkey bots. That was kind of a cute scene where Lex Luthor, I think, if I remember correctly, it's like, well, how are you able to do this? And it shows a scene of like all these monkeys sitting at, like rows of monkeys sitting on computers. And he goes, I have monkey bots. And I thought that was kind of hilarious. But then I'm wondering, like, okay, is there some kind of truth to this about, are there monkey bots somewhere? Are they going to be like monkey robots or something? I don't know. It was weird. It was kind of funny, and it just caught my attention. So I went ahead and wrote it down. Secret labs, all kinds of secret labs. And so in this, I mean, there's a lot of talk, especially in conspiracy circles, we'll say, or alternative media even, of secret labs. So that aren't some called DUMBs? Let me look that up real quick. DUMB labs. No. Like the underground military base, something like that. Is that what it stands for? Underground bases. Deep underground military bases. DUMB, DUM. Examples include the Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the Raven Rock Mountain Complex. Okay, so when it's all these secret labs where secret things are being done, especially when they capture Superman and they take him through a portal to another dimension, which is the next thing, dimensions. And there's like a whole prison. I think this is where the monkey bots were, maybe. And all these like experiments with different creatures and things, like, so chimeras and isn't it chimera? Is that I want to make sure I get my words right. Yes, chimera can refer to several things, but most commonly it describes a mythical creature with parts from different animals, or a biological organism with cells from two or more genetically distinct individuals. So with CRISPR, there's a lot of people that are able to make chimeras, right? That's a thing. But that's not really done openly, so they would be done in like secret labs, right? And then you've got things like MK Ultra and those kinds of labs, and whatever they are doing, whoever they is, right? And there might be multiple theys. The whole fact of secret labs was definitely part of the movie. And then dimensions. Okay, there's a lot of talk about different dimensions, like we're in one dimension and maybe there's an entirely other dimension that's existing alongside of us that we can't see because we're not on the same frequency. But sometimes if you get your frequency tuned in just right, you can see into another dimension, maybe through like remote viewing or out of body experiences or near death experiences or something, where you might see another dimension that was there all along, but we just don't know it. A lot of people talk about the simulation, the Truman Show. Are we living in a simulation? So different dimensions is definitely something that existed in the Superman movie. The next thing I noticed was traffic cameras and the overall surveillance of people. We've seen it already happening in China, where, people just walking down the street, there's cameras everywhere. They have facial recognition. Also, just to go into a store, to go into a building, you'll have some kind of biometric scanning that's done, scans your eyes, scans your thumbprint, scans a QR code, scans something that's embedded inside you, whatever. These kind of things exist. And it's getting more and more widespread. And I think the more digital city type things, when things move more towards digital cities, it will also control people digitally, in one way or another. So surveillance, this super surveillance ability definitely was part of the movie. They refer to metahumans. Okay. So Superman was from another planet, but in the Superman world, I think it's the city Metropolis, then they were able to enhance some humans into superheroes, and they were called metahumans. Well, we all know about transhumanism and the biology thing. I mean, the links, the neural links, and things like this already with Elon Musk and others. There's other companies, not only his, that are looking at having that brain computer interface, as well as mechanical arms, mechanical legs, different exoskeletons. All these things are being developed. They're just not openly talked about, but they're certainly being developed. And the people that are very much into transhumanism talk about it being a natural progression of evolution. You can believe this or not. I'm saying what they believe, right? They believe people came from stardust or whatever that exploded into Earth, and then there was a goo, and then there were amoebas, and then there were monkeys, and then there were people, And in this course of evolution, transhumanism is just the next step. And so there was a lot all throughout. You heard the term metahuman, 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 normalizing metahumans, you know. So that was a thing. Okay, nanobots. We know nanobots exist. This isn't just science fiction, okay? If you don't know what a nanobot is, it's like a little tiny robot that is microscopic, okay? You can breathe them in, like if they were to be sprayed in the air, you could breathe them in and then they would be inside your body. They could be injected, maybe through some kind of shot. And then once they're in your bloodstream and they're in your body, nanobots are actually, construction builders. They're designed with something that they're supposed to build, and they can take whatever building blocks it needs that are inside your body and create whatever they're designed to create inside your body, right? So they had, I can't remember at what point in the movie this was at, but there's this Lex Luthor has this, I believe is a metahuman, right? That's a villain, right? I don't think it's a complete alien that he just created. I think it's metahuman, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember if she is a complete creation or if she was chosen as a human and then changed into a metahuman, right? For dark purposes. But she can turn everything into like nano stuff. And so she infects Superman with nanobots, which fill up his lungs. Okay. And then once it reaches a certain capacity, it's going to kill him. So there's this time that, he's almost going to die, but of course he gets saved and rescued, and he doesn't die. But as spoiler alerts, I guess I should say, I'm just going to talk about things in the movie, right? So these nanobots, which are real, are used in the movie. And so Lex Luthor talked about actual GPS trackers in the bloodstream. Okay. I don't remember who had the tracker. If Superman had the tracker in his bloodstream. Yeah, I think that's like in the very, very beginning. When that's how they find where he was in the ice, and they find his secret home base laboratory thing. Because I think, but anyway, there were GPS trackers in the bloodstream. I have DYF 474. Oh, that was just a license plate number. I didn't know if that might have any kind of secret occult symbolism. DYF 474. But I wrote it down just as a note, because a lot of times things are put in movies like that. But let's see. Get something from Yellow Sun. He gets his powers from the Yellow Sun. Now, I found this very spiritually compelling, actually. So we all know that Superman, is vulnerable to kryptonite, right? And whenever he was injured, whenever his body was injured, he would need to be put under sunlight, because the yellow sun would actually heal his body. And there's a lot, I'm not going to get into it here, but there's a lot of spiritual, esoteric stuff on the difference between Saturn and Saturnalia and things that relate to Saturn as opposed to the sun. You know, worship of Saturn or worship of the sun. And there's also like something with yellow gold. You know, and it wasn't just the sun, it was the yellow sun. So I think, I mean, I don't know all the particulars about that. Stupid Man is more exciting than this movie. Okay, Zach. But there's, I don't know, there's something to dig. There's more meaning to that than even I know. But it was something that caught my attention. That how he got his powers from the yellow sun. Okay. Next page. Okay, genetics versus raising. That's all I could think of. And I actually had to Google because I couldn't remember. Nature versus nurture. Okay, that is huge in this. It doesn't come right out and say nature versus nurture, but that theme really is huge throughout the movie because Superman was born on Krypton and he's not human, but he was raised by humans. So his identity, his purpose in life is all tied up in, does he have more influence on who he is from his genetics, from his nature, from his birth, from Krypton, or from the raising of his human parents here on Earth? Did their raising of him make him into who he is today? Now, of course, I think we all know the answer is both. Nature and nurture both play a part in who we are. But that was a huge theme that carried on throughout different parts of the movie, the whole nature versus nurture. And then somebody had a really nice, it was like longer what they said, but the gist that I could write down was your choices and you are your choices. You are your actions, right? So in that sense, they were saying your nature doesn't matter and your nurture doesn't matter. Neither one of us, here we get it. And isn't that kind of true sometimes that, I mean, certainly there's influence. There's both influence. Is one influence stronger than the other influence? But when it comes down to it, we're taught to have a black and white choice when the reality is maybe something completely different, which is our choices and our actions. And that really comes down to also free will. Our free will for our choices and our actions that we make a decision about defines who we are. So I thought that was interesting. Makes you who you are. Yes. Okay. There was a lot about Civil War conflicts. I wrote down a note like Israel and currently Israel and Palestine, what's happening with the Ukraine and Russia. I mean, all over the world, even Cambodia and Thailand are having the beginnings of some issues. Myanmar's had conflicts for a long time. So there are these conflicts, and that dynamic is very clear. And they spell it out like I was kind of talking about at the beginning with the arms dealers and things like this, what kind of influence they have in creating these conflicts and the different reasons they may have for creating these conflicts, or at least creating. Sometimes they just create a situation where a conflict happens on its own, but they've had some influences, and sometimes they outright start a conflict, right? But that's definitely that's pretty obvious in the movie. Bavarian. Okay, so that's the name of the country. I thought it was very interesting. I wrote down Semitic look. Throughout the movie, a lot of the people And when I say Semitic, I don't mean like, because usually if you hear the term anti-Semitic, it's usually referring just to Jewish people or Hebrews. But I mean culturally back even further, where you have Arab, Arabia, you have Persia. Persians and Arab, Arabs are completely different. But anytime you look at the Middle East and Egypt and Tunisia, even, along the Mediterranean, there is a certain Semitic look. And there was a lot, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. Okay. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just observing. And I don't know if they were doing it on purpose to desensitize people, because it was they weren't bad guys in the movie. It wasn't like they were bad guys. It was just the people, right? And more often than not, they were people that were having war thrust on them, and they were like more like the refugees and the victims, right? So something I noticed, it was interesting. Then there was this very, very interesting scene. I don't know if there's some subliminal stuff going on with this one or not. I don't know. But there's an evacuation, okay? Because there's this time portal collapse, or not time, but a portal collapsed. And so now there's this rip happening through the land. And so the city has been ordered to evacuate, right? And you see all these people like getting on buses or whatever to evacuate, and they've got dogs, they've got cats, and there's this one shot of this little old lady. It looks like she's got like a fish tank or something. Then it zooms in, and she's got a turtle. She's got a pet turtle. And I don't know what the significance of that is. Okay, I know that my own ancestry with the Mohawk, I'm part of the Turtle Clan. Okay, maybe that's why it jumped out at me. I know that Native American origin story has to do with the world is like on the back of a turtle or something. So what is the significance of this old lady holding a pet turtle? Because it was like out of nowhere, right? Maybe it was just there to be like funny, because who has a pet turtle, right? But she's not leaving her pet turtle along behind. She's not leaving her pet turtle. What's this say? Nico. Hi, Nico. There is a big plot hole in Superman. Why couldn't Superman, with his X-ray vision, see Ultraman's face? He should have known long before, when Ultraman arrests him, that Ultraman is his clone. Ooh, wow, clever. Absolutely. Why shouldn't he be able to see behind cloth, right? Or whatever the mask is made out of. Wow. Yes. And I think cloning, I think we get to cloning somewhere. Do I have? Oh yeah. I have one more thing before the clone. So after the old lady and the pet turtle is, I wrote black nano goo. Okay. So if you're familiar with black goo, it's a thing. All right. And you can do your own deep dives on the black goo. And usually it's a goo, right? But here it was actually made by nanos. Then that's what I was referring to earlier when I said that they were filling up Superman's lungs, and so and they also they'll cover somebody's face and like smother them or whatever, or cover their body. They just replicate and so they're made from nanos, but they look like a black goo, right? So I noticed that in there. Then I have the cloning. Oh, now you mentioned that Yeah, stupid man, Superman, stupid man has a clone. Okay. And Superman being from, remember I told you about the speech and stuff earlier. So being not human, but being from Krypton. I'm not sure if he said it or if the clone said it, but one of them said, "I'm as human as anyone." I wrote that in quotes. I'm as human as anyone. I think we talked about that earlier. Nico, all James Gunn bootlickers are telling cloth was covered with lead when it was never mentioned in the film. Certainly it wasn't. It wasn't. He can't see, so his X-ray vision can't see through lead. The thing is, I know from movie making in general, I've just got a couple more things here in my observations, but like, for example, if you're adapting a book you can write as many pages as you want, but a movie has a time limit, and sometimes they'll even shoot so much more than they can actually fit in the film. So a lot of stuff sometimes gets left out. I remember the first serious film project that I was a part of, and where I was just called like production manager, but then I said, no, I want associate producer for my credit when it was all said and done, because I did so much on it. But there were transition shots, like exterior transition shots with no actors in them, that the director finally said, you know what, we don't have time to get that shot. We'll, okay, we just won't get it. But then when it got time to editing and he's like putting everything together, he didn't, he needed those transition shots are like really, I didn't even realize the significance of them. Otherwise I would have made him shoot him. But sometimes you have more than you need. Sometimes you don't have enough. Sometimes you have things that you are like critical, but then you just don't have the time and it has to get cut out. Sometimes if you're working with a big studio, the studio says, you know what, that's out of here. And then even though you as a director or as a writer, you're fighting for that. No, that there's a reason that's there. It has to be there, right? Hey, Frugal, so let's say his mask was coated in lead, right? But it was never said in the film. Well, is that because nobody wrote that in because they didn't think about it? Is it because the writer wrote it and the director didn't care or had some reason why he couldn't do it? Is it because the writer and the director were fighting for it, but the studio said, you know what? We just don't have time for that. You just have to cut that out, right? There's so many multiple reasons. And my favorite example of something similar, I was actually in the cinema and I stood up and I screamed at the end of the movie. Okay. Everyone like turned to look at me because I screamed. It was The Patriot with Mel Gibson. And in the very beginning, he's in a barn, minding his own business, trying to make a chair. And it doesn't work. It falls apart. Like when he tries to sit on it, it falls apart. Halfway through the movie, he goes to some general's house or whatever, and he's told to wait in this room for the guy to come in. And while he's waiting in this room, there's this really fine looking chair. And so he's like studying the workmanship of this chair. And he's like sitting in it and going, this is good. And then at the very end, he rides up like with a horse and a cart, like a wagon, bigger than a cart, a wagon full of whatever remaining things that they have from their family. War's been happening, things have burned down, whatever. He's got his remaining belongings in this wagon. And there's some kind of barn raising, if I recall right, there's like this barn raising happening. And it's like the perfect time, like someone gifts him a chair, or there's got to be a chair, because it started with a chair. There was a chair halfway in the middle, and then the end, you wrap it up with a chair. Right? There was no chair. I stood up and I screamed, "Where's the chair?" I never read the script. I never did any. I don't know, right? I don't know what happened, but it made sense that there needed to be a chair. One day, so that was a mystery that like drove me nuts. I finally got my hands on a script of The Patriot, and the writer had the chair. So how did the whole thing get cut out? Again, like I said, there could be all these different possibilities, right? I don't know why it wasn't there, but at least the writer is off the hook because there was a chair in the script. It was Daniel says it was an absolute disgrace. Well, please tell me more. And while you're writing, I'm going to give you my last two thoughts, because basically, and if you're interested, you watch like the replay of like everything I've said. I'm talking more about like the social implications and social issues that I noticed. But I'm certainly welcome to have conversation. In fact, I can like bring you up to speak if you want when I'm done. I'm almost done. Miss W in the house. Morning, Maven. I am working, but have been here listening. Have a great day. Thank you, Miss W. I hope you've enjoyed it. Okay, Gen Z behavior. I wrote. I didn't know any other way to write it. And I don't remember exactly what scene I'm talking about. I don't remember exactly which scene, but it was toward the end, obviously. So something about Gen Z behavior. And then we talked about secret labs in general, but Superman's home base secret lab was in Antarctica. So, of course, there's lots of conspiracy theories out there and stuff about Antarctica. I mean, did the Nazis have something? Does the CIA have something? Are there secret bases in Antarctica? That's a hot topic. So that was also there. That is all my 4 pages of notes. So if anyone would like to come up and chat, I'm welcome. I'm happy to do that. Put my little book away. Just tell me if you're interested. I use Streamlab, not StreamYard. And Daniel, I would be more than happy to hear what else you have to say about why you feel like it was an absolute disgrace. It was marketed towards kids, but the curse words flew. Superman even said super shit. Good catch. Good catch there. I didn't even like pay attention because I don't generally curse myself. And for some reason I kind of have an ability to just like ignore it. It's funny because all these like social issues were like popping out at me, but cursing I didn't hear, but I believe you. And yeah, it's definitely marketed towards kids. Gutters Pub in the house. Good to see you. Yeah. Just please, if anybody wants to come up, I'll share the link. I don't want to just share it if nobody wants to come up and talk on screen with me. Frugal says you enjoyed the fact that the people in the universe were blasé about the battles and everything happening. Makes sense because of the 300 years of metahumans and not just a new thing. Oh, yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting, I had seen Jurassic World a few weeks ago, right? When it came out, and there's this like little tiny dinosaur that almost looks like a triceratops, a bit like, kind of has like a fan kind of thing, but it's tiny and it's cute and it's tiny. And I'm going, yeah, that's there for marketing and for plush dolls for merchandise. They're, kids they're going to be selling all these little stuffed dinosaurs of this type, right? Well, they're in the very beginning, the first big monster that Superman is like going against and kind of gets defeated by starts out as this like little monster that then gets into a big monster. It grows into a big monster. And when it's the little monster, it looks like the dinosaur from Jurassic Park. Dolores. Who's Dolores? De Colares. Jurassic Ewok. Yep. But you're right. I think what you're trying to say, Frugal, is that like when that big monster was there, people were kind of like afraid of getting stepped on, but it didn't seem like they were that afraid of the monster itself, or yeah, whenever there were different fighting things going on, people were just afraid of getting in the way, but not really like, oh my God, what's that? Dolores was the name of the cute dinosaur. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Yes. I mean, and it was cute. I give him credit for that. It was cute. Dolores was cute. They had been living with metahuman stuff and it was just another day to them. You appreciated that. There you go. Yep. And you mentioned Nathan Fillion in yours. I mean, it clicked pretty fast for me because I love Nathan Fillion. And in fact, I like the one where he was in like a crime drama thing. He was a writer and he gets assigned to go around observing crimes with the lady cop. And then if, 3 or 4 seasons in, they finally fall in love with each other. Castle. Yes. Thank you. I loved Castle. I thought that was a great show. And, and then wasn't he in Guardians of the Galaxy? No. But he was in something like that. Which one was he in? Guardians of the Galaxy was Tim Allen. But he was in some kind of spoof thing. Wasn't he? Was Susan Sarandon? Wasn't she in it too? I don't know. But anyway, he's got this stupid haircut. And yes, he was in Firefly first, and I never got to see Firefly. I only learned about Firefly after I saw him in Castle. And anyway, his haircut was absolutely stupid. And then there's some point in there where someone gives, what is it, the hawk girl or whatever, makes a crack at his haircut. Somebody made a crack at his haircut. I did think, spoiler alert, it was quite clever about the whole time, and maybe this was part of the Gen Z. You saw him first with Ryan Reynolds and Two Guys and a Girl. Wow, that must have been a long time ago. And so you've got this girl, the Lex Luthor's girlfriend. She's always like taking selfies of herself, right? All this stuff's going on, and she's just taking selfies. And maybe that's part of the Gen Z behavior that I was thinking of, but I'm sure it was something else too. But so she's taking selfies, and she just looks so shallow, right? But it turns out she was actually okay, spoiler alert, right? She was taking her selfies in front of sensitive classified like information, in front of a map. You've got a map of strategy on the wall and she's taking a selfie, but behind her is the sensitive information, right? So I thought that was quite clever. Lois Lane picked on his hair. Oh, thank you, Frugal, for you saw it more recently than I did. I think. Did it just come out on Thursday? It's not even been out for a week yet. Yeah. Okay, Lois Lane picked on his hair. Speaking of hair, I thought it was very interesting on Superman that he always had this one the little curl thing, the little curly Q. Didn't matter like how beat up and this and that and everything. I mean, he still had that little curly Q. So that was funny. Yeah, Frugal says, I loved how they only thought of her as window dressing, but she was actually very clever. Yeah. But then the whole rip that was happening, that was interesting. Oh, the crypto guy, are you talking about the guy that his hand turned into the kryptonite? They had this guy that he was on Lex Luthor's team. And so when they captured Superman, this guy could take any elements that were available and like rearrange the atoms, because if you look at the atomic the table of elements of atoms and stuff, right? H2O is water. So if you can get H2O, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, you can make water, right? So basically he could reassemble any atoms into something. And anyway, so he creates kryptonite, and he's able to like keep Superman in a prison cell without breaking out because he's weak. But and then so Lex Luthor, in order to keep this guy making his hand into the kryptonite, they've kidnapped his son or his baby. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. His baby is in a cell across the way where he can see that the baby's being held. And I don't know, Lex Luthor did something. If you remember, the dog was funny. But Lex Luthor said something or did something that made this guy realize that he would, when he shot somebody, right? Lex Luthor shot somebody. And so then he realized he could turn on me just as easily as he just turned on this. He has no feelings. He doesn't care. He's only interested in using whatever he can for his will, right? And to get his objectives. And so there was like no loyalty in a sense after this guy. And so then he's like, Superman, can you really rescue my baby? He's like, yeah. So he turns off the kryptonite, and then Superman is like still weak. And he's like, the guy's like, well, why are you still weak? Go save my baby. He goes, my body needs to heal. It needs the sun. It needs the yellow sun, as we were talking about, the yellow sun to heal. And so then he takes elements and he makes a sun, and then Superman gets healed, and then he saves the baby. And the dog was funny. Lex killed the random man that talked to Superman. He was just a bystander. Exactly. Yeah, that's the shooting that happened. And there was something he said or did when that happened that the crypto guy was like, no. Daniel, I'll come up if you want. You're just chilling in your car. Okay. That'd be great. Let me see. Share stream. Copy stream link. No, wait. No. I need add guest. Copy link. Okay. Daniel, glad to have another voice other than just mine. I'm more than happy to share the screen. Frugal says, I will just grab someone else you like. Maybe that reporter you talked to, Clark Kent. Oh, yeah. That's what Lex Luthor said. But the dog was funny. There were lots of funny moments with the dog. I got to say that was good. Okay. I see Daniel.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, great.
Hey, how
Welcome.
are you doing? Your name is Maven?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mariam is my real name. It's not a secret, but yeah, I go by the Maven.
okay. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. And
So,
can I ask where are you in general?
I'm in Indiana. Yeah,
Indiana. Okay. I'm
yeah.
from California, but I live in Cambodia now.
Cambodia. Oh, okay. Wow. What time is it in Cambodia right now?
It's about 10 p.m.
Oh, okay. So you just saw the movie today, or
I
uh,
think I saw it on Thursday. I,
okay.
yeah. I'm not sure which day. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was Friday or Saturday. I might have saw it. So I don't know. Something happened in the house. I remember there was like um, something happened like that was spoiled or something, and I got really frustrated. Oh, I remember it was whipped cream. So I had bought I bought a can of whipped cream to make banana pudding because we don't have Cool Whip. You can't buy Cool Whip here. You could get whipping
Okay.
cream and whip it by yourself, but that's like forever. So I went ahead and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a can of whipping cream. I got the bananas, I got the custard, I got the vanilla wafers, and we're gonna make these little just little size, like tart size banana cream pudding things. And when I came home the day before, the can of whipping cream, of course, has to go in the refrigerator. But my like adopted daughter, she's like in her 20s, but she's Cambodian, and so she doesn't like recognize a lot of things like that. So I have to teach her, and and I kept telling myself, check if the whipped cream is in the refrigerator. And I was actually I think I actually looked in the refrigerator because we've got like 3 small kind of refrigerators downstairs. And that's one I have right there. That's a small one upstairs here in my room. Anyway, and I didn't see it, but I figured, well, it's got to be somewhere, right? And I went to bed, and the next morning, I get up and I see it sitting out like on a counter, but like where I didn't see it the day before, and it was like $5, okay, which doesn't seem like a lot, but kind of sometimes, that can be a big chunk of your budget, all right,
Yeah, we're
you
in
know,
a bad economy
and
right now, so yeah.
so I was just so frustrated, and I told her, I'm not angry at you, okay, because I knew better. I'm angry at
Right.
me, right? And but I just needed some space, and so it was Saturday. I can guarantee it was Saturday because normally I tutor a student at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and
Oh,
they had canceled, but I didn't tell her that it had canceled. So I I went to see the movie instead. I just got to get out of here. I got to cool off, relax,
yeah.
breathe. So I just got to go sit in the VIP cinemas on a weekend, 3D. I think it was $12, and so that includes food, popcorn,
That's really good,
drink.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and the recliners with the feet that go up and the back goes back, and the whole thing, 3D in the VIP with food. So $12,
Can't
and
beat that. Yeah.
which
Air
is like
conditioning.
more than the whipped cream. But
Sometimes you just got to do that.
I mean, you get that in and
Right.
I did not want to take it out on her because it was not her fault. So she just thought I would left to go tutoring, and I went in and saw
You got to get
that.
out of the house, get out of the environment that, you know, Forget about the spoiled whipped cream and all that. So,
Exactly. And I gave her a big hug before I left the house too, so that she knew she's not in trouble. So.
oh, how old is she?
She's 27, actually.
Okay.
But in Cambodia, 27 is more like 18. You know,
That seems like that's almost the way it is here. Yeah, people staying into their 30s and not leaving the house. So,
yeah.
how long have you been there?
I've been living in Cambodia for 18 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I love it. I love it here. And I am, I like kind of, I swore I wouldn't go back to the US, but I will be going back for a trip for 3 weeks in September. So
Oh,
there's that. I'll go see my mom and take care of some business, Social Security related and stuff. So
I think that's more common these days of moving out of the country, just the way things are and the economy and this, you have a lot of factors that are making that decision for people, so.
yeah. And so, yeah, it was right for me. And I've got lots of friends here. It was right for them too that have moved here. And then I've had lots of people that I've known that like they get here and then they turn around and they go back.
Oh, okay. What's the weather like? I've never even thought about Cambodia, like.
Yeah. Well, I spent my summers growing up in Georgia and Florida. Okay. Well, in Georgia, but so, you make a trip down to Daytona or Disney World or whatever, right? So, I mean, I'm very familiar with Georgia and Florida weather. And even I remember one summer going to Washington, D.C. So, that humid weather is actually all along the East Coast,
Right.
And it's not as bad as that was. It's all
Really? Okay. Yeah, I know Florida's like really humid weather.
Yeah, I remember
Indiana.
one day the humidity was 98 and the temperature, it was 98 and 98. I remember.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
stuck in my mind in Georgia, right? So the
Yeah.
Atlanta area was 98 degrees and 98 humidity. And that was just, it's never that bad here.
That sounds unbearable.
Yeah. So if you get like 98 degrees, it might be 30% humidity or 25% humidity. It's not 98.
Wow. We used to have some really humid weather. I mean, we do every maybe a couple weeks out of the year where it's just unbearable. I think we did about maybe a month ago. It was like that here in Indiana. I'm sorry.
Indiana.
But
Wow.
growing up, it used to be way worse. It seemed like we'd be close to the hundreds or that was like a common thing. Now it's same thing with the winters. They're really mild anymore. You really don't need a vehicle to navigate the snow like you used to in prior years. I mean, it's pretty mild overall. We had a pretty nice fall and spring this year too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Interesting. So being from Indiana, do you have any thoughts at all? Did you pay any attention to the Richard Allen case and the Delphi girls?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with news for quite a while. I'm mostly in this comic book stuff, or I think that's why you were on my algorithm, the Superman thing. I've been watching all these. Yeah, no, I don't know what that is. I really don't know what the Richard Allen thing is.
Okay, well, I'll give you a brief thing. So if it's in the true crime stuff, and there were a couple of girls, and so you know what, you would be like the best jury member, right? On a trial, because like you don't know. I mean, everyone else is like, this is worldwide attention. How can you find a jury that's not tainted? Well, like right here. That's amazing. But what happened? Huh?
So don't put that out in the universe. I don't want to get any thing in the mail. Just kidding.
Wait, sorry. Take that back. So first, have you ever heard of the town called Delphi?
That does sound familiar, actually, but I don't know where that's at.
I think it's kind of in the middle of the state and to the west a little bit.
I've heard of it. I'm up close towards South Bend, like maybe an hour south of South Bend. That's where Notre Dame football and all that stuff is.
Yeah, I can't remember which county it is or what the biggest town of the county is, but I've heard of that. There were 2 girls, and this was like 7 years before they caught someone. Okay, 2 girls went hiking on a little. There was this creek that had like an old railroad trestle and everything, and their sister dropped them. Well, the sister of one dropped her and her friend off to go hiking, and then an hour later, when they were supposed to be picked back up, they were not to be found. The next day, they find the 2 girls' bodies, and they had died by somebody. Right? You gotta be careful what you say on
right, on yeah, unalived and stuff. Yeah,
and I hate that stuff. So I'm trying to not say stuff without saying that stuff, right? Red rum, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 7 years goes by, and they follow up on one person, and then it goes nowhere, and they follow up on someone else, and it goes nowhere. And then they arrest this guy named Richard Allen, and the jail says, we can't keep him here. You need to put him in prison. So he hasn't even had a trial yet. He's innocent until proven guilty, right? But he's put in the prison system at one of the, I could probably tell you the name of the prison and you might recognize it. I don't know, because I guess it's a Wabash or something. Is there a Wabash prison?
Yeah, that's not actually that far from where I'm at. Maybe I'm not that far from that. Yeah, I have not.
One of the prisons, he ended up in 2 different prisons. One of them was Wabash. And anyway, and there were like all these like skinhead types, the whole thing, the defense and he just had public defenders, but the public defenders believed that he was innocent. So they were like really, really, really doing a lot. And they released this, they filed a paper with the court called a Frank's memo. And that just says that like the police didn't reveal all their discovery, and they didn't basically a Frank's memo is that the police were withholding information when they got their arrest warrant, right? So if the judge would have had all this information when considering an arrest warrant, the judge would have said no. Okay. Right. So it kind of goes to that probable cause affidavit that the police file in order to get the arrest warrant. So that's what the Frank's memo is. But it was like 80 pages or something. And it gave all these details that had never come out before, like that the girls were potentially ritualistically abused. I mean, and ritualistically done in, and like with Odinism. Are you familiar with Odinism at all?
No. So is that like
you like comic books, so you know about Thor?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Thor's dad, right?
Thor's dad is Odin. So the whole Norse religion can sometimes be called Odinism, right? But it's not. I mean, there's branches, there's different branches. There's just like Christianity, right? You can say, well, there's Catholic and Episcopal and Methodist and Baptist and everything, right? Same thing with the Norse religions, right? But they in their Frank's memo called it Odinism. And so there were like guards at the prison that had like tattoos of the symbol as being like part of it. And so, I mean, the whole thing was like really, really weird. And there wasn't, the more information that came out, it was like, how could it have been Richard Allen? And so and then there was a trial where the judge like didn't allow a lot of the evidence to be shown and or to be admitted, so the jury didn't hear a lot of the evidence, and so he was found guilty. But now it's like to be appealed and stuff. But it was a big, in the true crime world, it was like huge. Yeah. And it's funny
I've heard of Odin. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into this after we're done. I'm gonna have to look up all this stuff and see how far, because I'm not actually too far from Wabash. If that's like, is it Wabash County? I know that's the name of the county that Wabash is.
Delphi's not, but the correction facility probably is. The prison probably is.
Yeah, because I don't think, maybe it's a different. I don't know. So I'm just thinking there's the prison.
The prison was far away from Delphi.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, you can just do a general Google search or whatever. There's plenty of information, but there are, like, I've got a true crime playlist, and so you might have to go back a little ways to see the stuff that I always hashtag it as Delphi. And where so many people talk about so many details because it went on for years. Okay, I mean, there was like the 7 years before they arrested Richard Allen, and then there was like a year or two before his trial. So much happened, and I just generally did like some summaries. I didn't like, some people, it's like every day is a particular case that they're talking about, and I didn't do that. It's like, if I had something to say, then I would say it, and so there's a couple of summary type things. So you're welcome to start there with my channel, but go see what other people do.
That does kind of sound like a serial killer name. He just is missing the middle name, like Lee, Lee or something like that. Or
right. I don't remember like what his middle name. I mean, I'm sure that it's in public, but I don't remember. But yeah. Anyway, so did you have more to say about Superman? You didn't like it.
No, I didn't. I've only seen it once. So the way that movie is edited and everything, it feels like a fever dream or something. It's so much happening. Yeah. It didn't feel like Superman. I mean, it did and it didn't feel like Superman. He was for one, they made him weak. I mean, they started out the movie like that, showing him getting hurt, and then he's banged up almost the entire movie. And then it's kind of, I don't know. I was kind of left afterwards thinking, like, what was the through line? What was the hero's journey of this Superman? It didn't feel majestic or grand like kind of the Christopher Reeve or even some of the other ones, Brandon Routh. I don't know if you are a very big Superman fan or what kind of fan.
I saw it, like the Christopher Reeves, like I was young. I saw it in the cinemas and stuff. As far as like reading the comics and stuff, like I'm not like into all of that myself, but I'm certainly aware in general.
Yeah. I mean, those Christopher Reeve movies were like, I grew up with those. Those were, I mean, before we even had Batman on the big screen, it was, Christopher Reeve, and those last two movies aren't the greatest, 3 and 4, Richard Pryor, and they're fun for what they, they're kind of definitely 80s flavored and stuff, but but this movie didn't it kind of seem a little jokey or
a lot of jokes, a lot of funny stuff. Yeah,
it kind of seemed a little slapstick, and I don't know, just not, hate to say, not my Superman. I mean, I thought the guy did a good job and everything, but it was just the way they wrote the character. I would have liked to see more stuff with he wasn't Clark Kent too much in the movie. I like those scenes with Lois, those were kind of grounded it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I heard you talking about the kaiju thing. That was definitely different. I don't know. I'm not.
Guy with the kryptonite hand.
Oh
kind
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think his name was like Metamorpho or something like that. They kept him in this. That was another kind of confusing thing that Lex Luthor had these pocket dimensions. I guess that he would go in a tube and come out somewhere. Well, I guess it was
right,
like nowhere, right? You know, and he's keeping all these people prisoner. And
right.
I what was he? I guess what I was trying to. What was he getting? What was he wanting Superman to confess or say? You know, because they were holding him hostage with a kryptonite hand with that guy they were talking about, Metamorpho. But I don't
He wanted
know.
a code or something. Wasn't it
Was it the
some
code? Yeah, it's like a blur to me, like what the point was or why he even you
Frugal? Do
just
you
kind of dropped it.
remember? I'm
What?
asking for there's a guy named Frugal. I don't know if he's still listening. He might
Oh,
remember.
okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. He didn't see. I don't know if you've seen any of this director's other movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or
Oh yeah, I
those are
like
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, and that seemed like kind of like what the tone of this movie was, and
hmm
uh, they didn't. Superman didn't seem like Superman. He seemed like kind of like just another guy type thing with.
Now, one of the
Uh,
things that I talked about earlier was this whole um, right to be human thing.
okay.
Whether it's like AI or transhumanism or robots or something that they, if they have rights to be considered human,
Oh,
because there
okay.
was that's kind of what I was talking about, all these like social issues that I saw popping up. And so that was one of the things. In fact, I've got a note where I read, let me see. Do you remember a quote? I'm as human as anyone. And I don't remember
Yeah.
if it was him or the
Oh,
clone.
yeah. This was towards the end of the movie, right, where he does his
Toward
big
the
speech or
end.
whatever.
Right. But earlier there was actually some other conversation. Trying to
That's
about
interesting.
your
That's a good.
no, never mind. Never mind my notes, but yeah,
That's it.
it's
I've
kind
never
of
thought about that. That's kind of an interesting point or
well,
pickup. You know.
it comes together with what you said, because you said he was like he was more human, and it was like, well, that's kind of what I picked up on, in that they were, even though he was from Krypton, it was like, where is he valued is he equal as a human? Can he be counted as a
Right.
human?
Yeah.
And you're saying they made him look more human.
Right. That's the whole point of the movie, I thought. Because I know a lot of these writers and stuff, whether comic books or movies, they think Superman's a very difficult because he's way overpowered and he's basically a god here on Earth. And so they find it difficult to make him relatable. And I think they tried to depower him, I think, to make him less godlike and then emotional too. He was really having kind of emotional outbursts and stuff like that. Things a way you don't see Christopher Reeve or any of these other actors. That it was the way he was written in this movie. You know, arguing with Lois about uh, whether or not he should have involved himself in that war, and he was getting really upset that she was questioning him. You
Yeah.
know, other points of this where he was like really getting well. Yeah, so Lex Luthor had uh, like created an army of. So it's paralleling because James Gunn got canceled, I guess, basically for I don't know if you saw those tweets back, and I think it was during the Me Too movement where everybody was combing the internet for everybody's Twitter, and
Yeah.
he had made some kind of inappropriate jokes towards children or about children. I guess from 10 years prior to that, I don't know, somewhere in that range. You know, it's basically the age of everybody getting canceled, and
Right.
so I think that was his commentary. It was like he was kind of a self-insert. He said as much, like Superman reminds me of me, which I
Huh.
find that very strange, and then again, kind of in this movie, he was saying that, or in the plot of the movie, they're trying to defame Superman by any means, like in the media or on social media, with these
Yeah.
army of monkey. The that was the super
Monkey
shit
bots.
has. Yeah.
I mentioned the monkey bots.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought. Oops, let me turn that off. But I thought that was very different and very like. Why would Superman pay attention to social media? You know, like
Mhm.
and then getting upset over it. You know, when Lois brought it up, and uh,
Yeah.
very different. I mean, yeah, he's trying to. This is like the most human, I guess, or emotional. I'm not really sure what he was trying to accomplish with it. I'm not really. I'm still kind of scratching my head. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
that the AI thing is interesting. I didn't even consider that, but
yeah, yeah.
that's a very interesting angle.
The way they were talking about metahumans all the time is like transhumanism and everything. But earlier I did mention one of the first things it was I didn't use the word cancel. I forgot that. But I said the way that social media can build you up and then in an instant tear you down. And whether it's by
Right.
disinformation or misinformation or, and I told how it was like, it was something that was real, but Superman had never seen it because it had never been retrieved. So his whole growing up had nothing to do with that information. So it was, but it was portrayed that way. And then in the very end, you have the same thing happen to Lex Luthor, where he gets canceled. I didn't say the word cancel, but thank you for using the word cancel.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of at the end, they do the switcheroo on Lex Luthor, where now he's the bad guy, which he always was, but he's kind of masquerading as somebody that had our interest at hand. I'm glad they didn't do a because usually when they have somebody like that, he's basically a Trump avatar, I guess you could say. I've heard like this interpretation of Lex is more like Elon Musk or something. I'm not. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's because he had the teams of people working, that the entire time to take down Superman or what exactly. But because the Batman v Superman movie, the Lex Luthor in that movie, they modeled him after the guy from Facebook. Can't think of his name, but Zuckerberg. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I don't know if you caught that or remember that, where basically they did a lore change with Superman's parents, where they decoded somehow the engineer is able to. So Superman's been watching this one tape or whatever of his parents, like as almost ASMR or something. I don't know. Like it's very comforting while he's getting healed, and then but half of the message is missing, and then when they break into the Fortress of Solitude, the engineer is able to retrieve the last half miraculously, and then it's Superman's birth father, saying, "You're going to go to Earth and conquer it and have what harems or something that spread your seed, basically." And very different.
That was part of it.
Super seed.
And rule over all of the people, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
the whole.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that it's like that. He didn't know, but Superman didn't know any of that. But because it was out there on social media and released, there was no, there was no disputing it in a way. I mean, he's not the type of person, right, that would challenge it. He doesn't go speak out. So nobody was challenging,
They kept.
And it was real. It could be verified as real, which I think more.
That my mind went to, okay, maybe it's corrupted, maybe it's doctored somehow, and then very quickly the movie keeps telling you, no, it's real. You know, I think Mr. Terrific says something like, these people never lie, or I forgot, you know, like the people that translated it or something, you know. So,
I love the
which, you know, that's far fetched, but I thought that was a very strange, like, I don't know, like, are they going to go back in future movies and say, well, no, this isn't, because that's a pretty big change to the Superman mythos that he was sent here to conquer, and, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not really sure.
Well, if it
I
is, if it's fake, then that would be like in a future film, right? One of the social
yeah,
issues then would be how good AI is, well, AI and just digital manipulation is now at not being traceable, you know, to when
true,
something
yeah,
changed, you know,
yeah,
and what can
very
you
true.
believe anymore?
Yeah,
So,
the whole topic of AI is very just, you know, the fact that you can sample a piece of someone's voice and you can make that voice say whatever. That's
yeah.
going to be very tricky in the future. You know, like, how do I know, like, say I get a voicemail from you or something like that, how do I know it's legitimately, you know, what I worry about is right now these AI videos, you can still tell they're fake and they're AI usually. You know, they're getting better and better, but it will worry me when we get to the point where you can't tell a difference if it's real or not, you know, when you can't
Mhm.
distinguish reality from, you know, artificial intelligence. So, which
Yeah.
the way things are going, I fear we might be going there fairly quicker. I mean, just a couple of years ago, none of the stuff weren't using in apps or anything like that, and
Yeah.
now, I mean, you, like with movies and stuff, like they had the strike and stuff because of the AI, or that was a big part of it. You know, like because
Mhm.
they were wanting actors to submit their likeness to be used however the studios want. You know, for
Right.
AI, you know, and they boycotted against that, or you know, went on strike or whatnot. But and same thing with writing scripts, you can, you know, AI can do that. You know, basically a lot of these functions that, you know, normally a human would do. You know, now it's so yeah, we're in a very
Mhm.
tricky territory. You know,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you
so
this, since you're really familiar with the comics and everything, was his, you called it Fort of something, his home base,
oh, Fortress of
Superman?
Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that
Yep.
always in Antarctica, or did the movie put it in Antarctica?
That's a good question. I think it always has been. I mean, I think was it that way in the Christopher Reeves? I know it was like somewhere really cold. I would assume like because I think they because Superman one, like the Christopher Reeve Superman, like one and two were filmed back to back, and I guess there's a lot of different versions of that movie. There's like the Donner cut. The guy that originally filmed those first two Superman movies was taken off, uh, and they brought somebody else on to make it more comedic, which is like, okay, that seems like ironic. Because of what we just watched, you know, that's a very comedic
Mhm.
movie. But um, where was they going
Okay.
with this whole thing?
I Well, I looked it up, and it says that it's always been Arctic. And it's
Yeah,
funny
cause
because I
yeah,
was thinking towards, when you mentioned Christopher Reeves, I was thinking more towards North Pole, right? And that's exactly what the Google AI answer said, was that it's
yeah,
typically the North Pole. Didn't mention Antarctica at all. It says it. So I guess that in the comic book, it is only defined as Arctic, and
right,
it's typically been the North Pole. So the fact that they made it at Antarctica is like one of the things that I noticed, because you know that there's so much conspiracy theory and everything about, do the Nazis have a base? Does the US military have a base? Is there a, United Federation of the World of Humanity base there? You know, like, is there some kind of secret base in Antarctica, right? And so the fact that they put it there in Antarctica caught my attention. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, what I was getting at was, well, I don't know if you remember Superman 2 or not, but the characters in the movie that was released, like, you know, he loses his powers and then he goes back in the thing and he gets his powers back. This is in the Fortress of Solitude, and then the three Kryptonians lose theirs, and then they basically throw him in this, I don't know, this void or something like this pit within the Fortress of Solitude. Like, you never see them; they just fall, and you assume they're dead. But in like I don't know if that was a TV version or like it's some kind of alternate version where the Arctic police come and get these Kryptonians and arrest them and stuff like that. But yeah, now that you say it, like, DC does a lot of things where they don't call the actual cities by, they have their own name for, like, Metropolis and Gotham, and so maybe they just say the Arctic, in place of Antarctica, or whatever. So that could be. I never really thought about that either.
Yeah. So yeah, well, they made it Antarctica in this one.
Huh. What did you think of the movie? Did you like it, or did you have a problem with it? Or
no, I didn't have any problems with it. I mean, in general, I mean, I'm not familiar. Like, so somebody who's a World War II buff is going to notice if the insignia is perfect on a uniform and if the airplane is painted right. They're going to catch things like that. I'm not familiar enough to be able to catch any inconsistencies like that. But as far as, I think, somebody just wanting to be entertained and have a fun ride, it's that. There's some funny stuff. There's enough of a story that you're following. And the point of my going live tonight was just to talk about all these different social issue things that I saw pop up at me. Because while I was watching the movie, I had to, like, start making notes because there was just so many things coming at me and I knew I wouldn't be able to remember it all. So I'm sitting there in the cinema writing notes.
I wish I could do that. I always, when I leave, I'm always thinking, man, I wish I would have written down taking notes and stuff like that. So maybe I might try that, because I do go see movies multiple times a lot of times. I think I might see this again Tuesday just because the way the movie was, somebody described it as like it kind of seemed like a season of a TV show, and then they just clipped out like the highlights of the whole series or the whole season. And then it just seemed like here's a scene. But like the first half of the movie, I would say, was at least like that. Well, I guess originally they were gonna make it like one of those movies where it's like they'll put a title card like Monday, and then all the events that you see take place on a Monday. Because if you notice, like the kaiju scene that you were talking about, like you saw at night, and that the black. So they did some race swaps, but they have in the past with Perry White, they made him black in Man of Steel and those movies, and then same with this movie, but he only had like one or two lines, and then they had Otis from the same character from the Reeve movie, but he was black. But anyways, like they that was the distraction. I forgot what it was, because there's so much going on in this movie, but they were going to distract Superman by releasing the kaiju into the Metropolis at night, and it was just a little baby one. So it was at night, and then the next scene you see is at daytime, where the kaiju he's gonna step on this dog, I think, and then Superman, catches his foot or something like that. So that would have been like, a Tuesday or something. Like they would have originally. That's how I guess the movie was structured. They were gonna have title cards, like, which it might have flowed a little bit better. So I started kind of getting a headache a little bit. I don't know. It was like maybe overstimulated or something. I'm not sure. Some of the way
I don't know,
some
maybe
movies
there
are
was
these days.
something
Yeah,
subliminal happening that was giving you a
could
headache.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to catch the little old lady in the evacuation that had a pet turtle?
That was very strange. Wasn't it? They kind of zoomed in
Yeah,
on that. I'm not.
exactly. It was like they made a point of I think you saw the little old lady first, and then you saw the turtle because you thought
Yeah,
maybe
remember
it's a
that.
fish tank or something, right? But it was a turtle, and it was very like, I don't know, in your
They,
face kind of.
yeah, they wanted you to see it, but
It
I
was
don't know.
fast. It was
Yeah,
so fast, but it was almost like it's suspended time, you know? It was really weird. And so that caught my attention. It's like, I don't know what the meaning of this turtle is, but I think there's some kind of meaning here, you know?
yeah. That's yeah. When they were getting, was it the kaiju fight or what one was it that they were basically saying, oh, they're going to evacuate the whole city? They kept making a point to say that.
Oh,
But
well,
I
they
mean,
didn't
realistic.
evacuate the city until the rip was happening.
That's right. That's when it was. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of stuff with kaiju's and happens all the time apparently or something. It's very strange that it was
Frugal was
what.
saying that. It's like, well, so many years they've had metahumans and they've had all this monsters that it doesn't phase them. So I responded saying, well, yeah, now that you mention it, it was like they were just afraid they were going to get stepped on, but they weren't really afraid. Like they weren't like, oh my God, what's that monster?
Right. Yeah. The whole time that Superman and the Justice Gang, I think that's what they were called, were fighting that on the TV monitor. It's like Lois is looking up at it while she's discussing something with, I think the character's name is Cat Graham or some Cat something or other. And it's like they weren't even really concerned with what that's like you said, that could happen every day apparently or something. Like it's very strange because it was obviously not taking place in our world, which all the rest of the Superman movies are pretty much, especially like Man of Steel. I don't know if you've seen that or Batman v Superman, but those are very much grounded in our world. Like basically, what if Superman showed up at our world? How would we react? And those are very interesting movies. You might find them interesting because it's like kind of a very good social commentary and pretty realistic. Like he wasn't really, he was kind of met with a lot of um, distrust and stuff like that. Does he have ulterior motives? The government's worried. Is he behind? So yeah, it was very realistically depicted. Where this is very cartoony and that's the other problem I had is like it didn't seem like there was many stakes in the movie. It didn't seem like anything. It felt like a cartoon, like what's the Coyote and Roadrunner or something. It's like that's what Lex and Superman seemed like. It didn't seem like anybody was ever going to be worried that anything was going to happen to these characters. So,
like some kind of end game. I guess the only end game, rather than like the protagonist, you were talking about the hero's journey and things like that.
Yeah.
Rather than the protagonist having the journey, it was actually more like it was Lex Luthor's journey for his end game that was being revealed. And Superman was like his tool that he was using. So we were seeing Superman being used by Lex Luthor for his kind of journey. Does that make sense? I didn't think about it until
bit. They both characters seem like very young and immature, like very childlike. I don't know. They're very high emotional. Basically the entire movie, Lex Luthor is wringing his hands about Superman. He hates him. What? I forgot the speech that they both kind of give speeches towards the end of the movie. I remember somewhat of the Superman speech, but Luthor gives some speech about how it's so frustrating not to be recognized as a brilliant person. And I forgot. I'm gonna have to watch it again because but yeah, it was. I see what you're saying. You know, he was kind of using Superman as a means. Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that whole thing, that line of thinking.
Well, and as far as a journey, like a typical hero's journey, you actually kind of start with Superman in the ice, right?
Right.
Landing in the ice. And of course that's in all the trailers, right? But I didn't realize that that was going to be the start of the movie. So there was already a fight that happened with
Yeah.
something that ended
You're
in,
right.
you know, that he ended up there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, all this war had been going on. You know, evidently Lex Luthor had orchestrated this war. Like, I can't remember. Basically, just to drum up distrust in Superman. I assume, like, he sided with one nation, one of the two nations, and then orchestrated the attack, knowing that Superman would get involved, and knowing that the public would be easily distrustful. I don't know. I guess that's what it was.
Lex Luthor's end game, from what I understood, was to be king of that part of that country. So, well, he would be king of his
Yeah.
own country because the Baravia or whatever bought.
Yeah, Bravia, and I can't remember the name of the other.
Right. That he made a deal with Baravia that once they overtook the other country, then he would be granted part of it to be king of that country. So that was his end goal. But in order for that to happen, there had to be a conflict, you know, so that, but because he was already selling the arms to Baravia, right? So now they needed an excuse to use it and to attack the other country. And so that's why he had to draw Superman into it. So he would not only start a war that would give him a reason to have the war where he would end up being king of a country from the back deals, but he would also kill Superman in the process. So he would kill two birds with one stone. So first he would use Superman to get the war started, and then he would kill Superman and live happily ever after as king. That was his end game.
Yeah, he basically was he granted permission by our government to go after Superman? I think I remember the scene like that or something.
That's why he needed the recording to cancel Superman, so that the government, because he approached the government and they told him no.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, yeah.
You're telling us that he's got these evil intentions, but there's no proof of it. So that's when he had to go get the recording. Well, he didn't know he was going to get a recording. He was just going to find something that was proof, and he got the recording. So that was like, wow, this is the best proof ever. Then canceled Superman. And so then the US said, yes, you can go, you have permission to go get Superman. Yeah. Which was all part of, that's what I mean. It's weird. It's like it's Lex Luthor's journey. It's like we're watching Lex Luthor's journey through Superman's perspective of what's happening to him while Lex Luthor is on his journey.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of one of the three main characters. I think he had more. Did he have more screen time? I don't know. They kind of broke up the screen time. It's like you spent time with the Justice Gang, then you spent time with Superman and Lois. Then Lois is with Mr. Terrific for part of the movie to kind of go get Superman. Then Lex is kind of interspersed all throughout the movie. But yeah, it's funny that he's still, even though because that was always a knock on the Christopher Reeve Superman. It's like, well, that Lex Luthor is only interested in real estate, but he kind of is again with this, movie, in a way. But
interesting. Well, it's almost 11 p.m. here for me.
Oh, okay.
And you're probably getting hungry. I guess it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get going.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I don't always do comics if that's your only interest, but you're certainly free to look at any of the other stuff. I do trivia though sometimes. Tomorrow night, the same time is trivia, like music trivia. And then it's just because it's like whatever you're into, we all need a break sometimes. So
Yeah,
let's just have a break
definitely.
with music trivia. And then Wednesday, I talk about Cambodia's true crimes. And it's just the news story, the news stories. And I go through like the headlines and talk a little bit about the crazy things that are happening here. Because that just gets your mind off your own stuff too. And then Thursday is usually another trivia, and Sundays I do crossword puzzles. So,
Nice.
you know,
What was that guy's name again?
Huh?
What was that guy's name again here in Indiana? The
Richard Allen.
Richard Allen. I'm gonna have to...
Just look up Delphi murders. There, I
Okay.
said the word. Ooh, it's at the end.
Ooh.
You know, just look up that, but Richard Allen is his name. Yeah.
Okay.
But I have hashtag Delphi in all of my stuff. So.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely come back and check out your stuff, and maybe check out your. This has been very fun. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks
I've
for
never been on...
telling people, come up on panel with me. You know, I can
Yeah.
up to like 10 people or something. I don't know. I can have people. And nobody ever no, I don't want it right now. I'm like, okay. So it was
I've
fun.
never been on live on stream before, and you seem like a really nice person. And so, and
I only have like 600 something subscribers. I don't have huge subscribers, so it's not like, you know,
that's way more. Way more.
A million people, you know. But when it ends, it's always available, so maybe people will end up watching it, you know.
Okay.
Who knows?
Cool.
But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Before I go, I always like to tell everybody that love actually does transcend time and space. So wherever and whenever you watch this, I love you. There you go. Thank you very much. And
thank you. Thank you. That was from the Christopher Nolan movie, right? That was from I can't think of the name. Interstellar, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's just what I always say. But if somebody else says that, I mean, I think that it has been used before. But
yeah, that's kind of the theme of that movie.
Yeah, love transcends time and space. That's
yeah.
Amazing. So, but yeah, I don't own it. My crossword puzzles. One time, the theme of the crossword puzzle actually was called love, or somewhere in there it said love transcends time and space. It was like a direct quote, which was written long before I ever said it. You know.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
that's a good quote. I like that.
It's just out there. So all right. So same bat time, same bat channel. Tomorrow night for me, tomorrow morning for a lot of you. And until then, I'll catch you later.